Have you ever had someone you raised, someone you sacrificed everything for, look at you like you're nothing but a burden? Like your whole life, everything you built, amounts to trash they need to dispose of? I'm Dorothy Mae Johnson, 78 years old, and my daughter tried to sell the land I'd lived on for 53 years, never knowing that beneath that worthless shack sat $3 million in mineral rights that would change everything. Before we get into this, I need to know, where are you watching from right now? Are you at home with your family? Maybe visiting your own parents or grandparents? On your break at work? Drop your location in the comments below. I want to know who's here with me, because this story, it's about family, betrayal, and the dangerous assumption that the elderly don't matter. And by the end, you'll understand why I need to know you're listening. Let me take you back to where it all started. Appalachia, West Virginia, 1970. I was 25 years old when my husband Samuel and I bought 40 acres of land outside a small town called Harlan Creek. We paid $3,200 for it, every penny we'd saved from his work in the mines and my job at the textile factory. It wasn't much, a dirt road leading to a clearing, thick woods all around, a creek running through the back portion. But it was ours. Samuel built our house with his own hands. Nothing fancy, 1 story, 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room with a wood stove. He used lumber from our own land, stone from the creek bed. It took him 2 years working every weekend and evening after his shifts underground. We raised our daughter there. Rachel came along in 1972, a beautiful baby girl with Samuel's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. We didn't have much money. Mining didn't pay well, and the textile factory closed when Rachel was 5. But we had love. We had land. We had each other. Samuel died in 1989, black lung after 25 years breathing coal dust. He was only 51 years old, but his lungs were 80. I held his hand in the hospital while he struggled for every breath, and the last thing he said to me was, "Don't let them take the land, Dot. Promise me." I promised. After Samuel died, I lived alone in that house. Rachel had moved to Charleston by then, married a real estate developer named Craig, had 2 kids, lived in a big new house in a subdivision with a homeowners association and a community pool. She'd visit once, maybe twice a year, Christmas and my birthday if I was lucky. "Mom, why don't you sell this place and move to Charleston? You're out here all alone. What if something happens? What if you fall?" "I'm fine," I'd tell her. "This is my home. Your daddy built this house." "Daddy's been gone 30 years, Mom. It's just a house." But it wasn't just a house. It was Samuel's hands in every beam, his sweat in every stone. It was Rachel's childhood, her tree swing still hanging from the oak tree, her initials carved in the porch railing. It was my life, my memories, my promise to Samuel. I lived simply. My Social Security check covered the basics, propane for heat, groceries, the occasional repair. I had a garden where I grew vegetables, chickens for eggs. The land provided, like it always had. I didn't need much, and I certainly didn't need Rachel's charity or her judgment about my primitive lifestyle. But Rachel saw it differently. To her, I was an embarrassment, a stubborn old woman living in poverty when I could be in some nice facility where professionals could take care of me. The house got older like I did. The roof leaked in places, the porch sagged a bit, the paint peeled, but it was still solid, still home. I patched what I could, made do with what I had. Then came the fall of 2023. Rachel showed up unannounced on a Tuesday in October. She had Brandon with her, and another man I didn't recognize. Slick suit, expensive car, the kind of person who looked at my home like it was a trash heap. "Mom, this is Brandon," Rachel said, not even coming inside for coffee first. "He's a real estate investor. We need to talk about your situation." "My situation?" "This place, Mom. Look at it. The roof is caving in, the foundation is cracked. You don't even have internet out here. You're 78 years old living in a shack with no neighbors for 2 miles. It's not safe. I've been living here just fine for 53 years. You fell last month. Mrs. Chen from the County Senior Services told me. You fell and couldn't get up for 3 hours. I had fallen, that was true, tripped over a root in the yard, wrenched my back. But I'd gotten up eventually, iced it, been fine. Mrs. Chen had exaggerated to Rachel, probably thinking she was helping. I'm fine, I said firmly. You're not fine. Rachel's voice rose. Mom, I can't keep worrying about you out here. I have my own family, my own life. I can't be driving 2 hours every time you need something. I don't ask you to drive out here. I don't ask you for anything. Brandon stepped forward, his smile oily and false. Mrs. Johnson, I understand this is difficult, but Rachel is right to be concerned. This property, frankly, is more liability than asset. The structure is irresalvageable. It would cost more to repair than it's worth. The land itself has minimal value, too hilly for farming. I'm not selling. Mom, be reasonable, Rachel said, and I heard the edge in her voice, the impatience, the barely concealed frustration with the stubborn old woman who wouldn't do what she was told. You found a lovely assisted living facility in Charleston. It has activities, other seniors, a nurse on staff. You'd have your own room. A room, not a home. It's better than dying alone in this falling down shack. The word hit me like a slap. Shack? That's what she called the home her daddy built with his own hands? Get off my property, I said quietly. Mom, I said, get off my property, all of you. They left, but Rachel's face told me this wasn't over. I'd seen that look before, when she was a teenager and I wouldn't let her do something she wanted. The look that said she'd find a way around me. I should have known she'd already started. 3 weeks later, I got the papers. Mrs. Chen brought them out to me. She came by every Tuesday to check on the seniors in the county. Sweet woman, originally from Taiwan, always concerned about everyone's well-being. She handed me a manila envelope with a troubled expression. Dorothy, this was posted on your door. I don't think you saw it. I wanted to make sure you got it. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Legal papers. A petition for guardianship. Rachel Ellen Patterson, nee Johnson, requests the court grant her full guardianship over Dorothy Mae Johnson, age 78, on the grounds of diminished capacity and inability to care for herself. Petitioner cites unsafe living conditions, isolation, history of falls, and respondents' refusal to accept necessary assistance. My vision went blurry. I had to read it 3 times before the words made sense. My daughter was trying to declare me incompetent, trying to take control of my life, my decisions, my property. What does this mean? I asked Mrs. Chen, my voice barely working. She read through the papers, her face grown more concerned. It's a guardianship petition. If the court grants it, your daughter would have legal authority to make decisions for you. Where you live, how your money is spent, what happens to your property. She can't do that. I'm not incompetent. I'm just old. You need a lawyer, Dorothy, right away. The hearing is in 2 weeks. I didn't have money for a lawyer. My Social Security check was $1,847 a month. After propane, electricity, food, and medicine for my arthritis, I had maybe $200 left over on a good month. I'd never needed a lawyer before, never even thought about needing one. Mrs. Chen made some calls. She found me a legal aid attorney, a young woman named Beth Hartley, who worked for the West Virginia Legal Services. Beth came out to the house that Saturday. She was younger than Rachel, maybe 35, with kind eyes and a professional manner that didn't feel condescending. She walked through my house, asking questions, taking photos on her phone. Mrs. Johnson, I'll be honest with you. These guardianship cases are difficult. The standard is whether you can care for yourself and make reasonable decisions. Your daughter will present evidence about the condition of your home, your isolation, the fall you had. I can take care of myself, I said. I believe you, but we need to prove it to a judge. Can you manage your medications independently? Yes. Your finances? I pay my bills on time every month. Do you have any cognitive issues, memory problems? My memory's fine. I remember everything about this house, this land. I remember when my husband bought it in 1970 for $3,200. A thought struck me. The deed to this property. Where's the deed to this property? Do you have it somewhere safe? Samuel kept all the important papers in a metal box in the bedroom closet. Let me get it. I found the box exactly where it had been for 50 years. Inside, my marriage certificate, Samuel's death certificate, Rachel's birth certificate, my social security card, and a large envelope marked property deed and documents. I hadn't opened this envelope in decades. Samuel had handled all the property matters, taxes, paperwork, everything. After he died, I just kept paying the property taxes every year, never really looking at the details. Beth opened the envelope carefully. Inside was the original deed from 1970, 40 acres in Harlan County, West Virginia, purchased by Samuel and Dorothy Johnson for $3,200. But there was another document beneath it, older, yellowed with age, in language I didn't fully understand. Mrs. Johnson, Beth said slowly, her eyes scanning the paper, do you know what mineral rights are? No. When you buy land, sometimes the rights to what's beneath the surface, minerals, coal, oil, gas, are separate from the rights to the surface. Okay. According to this document, when your husband purchased this property, the sale included all mineral rights. That's unusual. Most land in this area was split long ago, with companies owning the subsurface rights. But this deed explicitly states including all mineral, water, and subsurface rights in perpetuity. My heart started beating faster. What does that mean? It means you own not just the 40 acres of land, but everything underneath it. And Mrs. Johnson, there's a note attached here. It looks like it's in your husband's handwriting, isn't it? She handed me a small piece of paper, folded and tucked into the deed envelope. Samuel's careful printing, faded but legible. Dot. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I never told you because I didn't want you to worry, but the reason I bought this specific plot was because of a geological survey I saw at work. This area sits on a rich mineral deposit, not coal, but rare earth elements. In 1970, nobody cared about them, but someday they will. I bought this land for us to live on, but I also bought it as insurance, as our future. If something happens to me, if you ever need money, have the land surveyed. The minerals underneath could be worth a fortune. I love you. Take care of our girl. Samuel. I stared at the note, tears streaming down my face. Samuel knew. All those years he'd known there was something valuable beneath our home, but he'd never mentioned it because he didn't want to change how we lived. He'd wanted us to have a simple life, but with security underneath. Beth was already on her phone. Mrs. Johnson, I need to make some calls. If what your husband suspected is true, if there are valuable minerals under your property, that changes everything about this guardianship case. How? Because your daughter isn't just trying to help you, she's trying to get control of potentially valuable property. And if she hasn't disclosed that in her guardianship petition, she's committed fraud. Over the next 10 days, Beth worked like a woman possessed. She hired a geological surveyor using money from a legal aid emergency fund. The surveyor came out to the house with equipment that looked like something from a science fiction movie, taking soil samples, using ground-penetrating radar, running tests. His report came back 3 days before the hearing. The 40 acres contained significant deposits of rare earth elements, specifically neodymium and dysprosium, metals crucial for electric car batteries, wind turbines, and high-tech electronics. Based on current market prices and estimated extraction costs, the mineral rights were conservatively valued at $2.8 million, almost $3 million, sitting beneath the worthless shack Rachel wanted to declare abandoned. Beth did more digging. She subpoenaed Craig's business records, Rachel's husband, the real estate developer. And there it was. 6 weeks before Rachel filed for guardianship, Craig had met with Brandon, the investor they'd brought to my house. Brandon's company specialized in buying distressed rural properties, particularly in areas where mineral rights might be valuable. The plan became clear. Get me declared incompetent, sell the property as worthless land with an uninhabitable structure, pocket whatever they could get from Brandon's company, which would then turn around and extract millions in minerals. Rachel was trying to steal my home and my future, and she thought I was too senile to notice. The hearing was on a Thursday in November. The Harlan County Courthouse, a brick building built in 1925 with high ceilings and worn wooden benches. I dressed in my Sunday best, a blue dress I'd worn to church for 20 years, sensible shoes, my hair neat. Beth had coached me. Be calm, be clear, answer the questions directly, show the judge you're competent and capable. Rachel arrived with Craig and an expensive lawyer from Charleston, a man in a $1,000 suit who looked at the small-town courthouse like it was beneath him. They didn't even glance at me. Rachel stared straight ahead, her face set in that expression I remembered from her teenage years, righteous determination. The judge was Honorable Patricia Simmons, a woman in her 60s who'd been on the bench for 30 years. She had a reputation for being fair but tough, no nonsense. "This is a petition for guardianship," Judge Simmons began. "Miss Patterson, you're requesting full guardianship over your mother, Dorothy Mae Johnson, on the grounds of diminished capacity. Is that correct?" Rachel's lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We have substantial evidence that Mrs. Johnson is no longer capable of caring for herself or managing her affairs." "Proceed." For the next hour, I sat and listened to my daughter's lawyer paint me as a confused, helpless old woman living in dangerous conditions. They showed photos of my house, the peeling paint, the sagging porch, the old appliances. They brought in a doctor I'd never met who testified that isolation at advanced age often leads to cognitive decline. They referenced the fall I'd had, making it sound like I'd been incapacitated for days instead of hours. Rachel herself took the stand, and that's when it hurt most. "Mrs. Patterson, why are you seeking guardianship?" her lawyer asked. "Because I love my mother," Rachel said, and her voice actually broke. She was good at this, the concerned daughter routine. "I'm terrified every day that she's going to fall again, that she's going to get sick, that something's going to happen and no one'll find her for days. She's isolated out there, living in conditions that are frankly inhumane. I just want to take care of her." "Has she refused help?" "Constantly. I've offered to move her to a nice assisted living facility. I've offered to renovate her home. I've offered to hire help. She refuses everything. She's stubborn and irrational about it." "In your opinion, is she capable of making sound decisions about her care?" "No, she's living in the past, holding on to a house that's fallen apart because she can't accept that my father is gone and her life has to change. It's not rational." The judge turned to Beth. "Does the respondent wish to present evidence?" Beth stood. Yes, Your Honor, substantial evidence. She called Mrs. Chin first. The county senior services worker testified that while my house was old, it was clean, functional, and I'd never shown any signs of confusion or inability to care for myself. Mrs. Chin, in your professional opinion, does Dorothy Johnson need a guardian? Absolutely not. She's one of the most capable seniors I work with. She manages her medications, pays her bills, maintains her home. She's isolated geographically, yes, but that's her choice. She has full mental capacity. Then Beth called Dr. Morrison, my actual doctor from the county clinic, who testified that I had no cognitive issues, no memory problems, and was in remarkably good health for 78. She has some arthritis, yes, but so does everyone her age. She's mentally sharp, physically capable, and fully competent to make her own decisions. Then Beth dropped the bomb. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence the property deed for Mrs. Johnson's land, along with a recent geological survey. Rachel's lawyer stood up. Objection. The condition of the property is not relevant to the question of Mrs. Johnson's capacity. It's relevant to the question of motive, Beth said calmly, which goes directly to the credibility of the petitioner's claims. The judge looked interested. I'll allow it. Proceed. Beth presented the deed, the mineral rights documentation, Samuel's note, and the geological survey showing $2.8 million in mineral value. Your Honor, 6 weeks before filing this guardianship petition, the petitioner's husband met with Brandon Hollis, a real estate investor who specializes in acquiring mineral-rich properties. We have documentation of that meeting. She handed up more papers, Craig's calendar showing the meeting, emails between Brandon's company and Craig's discussing acquisition opportunities in Harlan County. We believe the petitioner is not seeking guardianship out of concern for her mother's welfare, but to gain control of valuable property. Land the petitioner believes is worthless, but is actually worth nearly $3 million in mineral rights. The courtroom went silent. Rachel's face turned red, then white. Craig looked like he might be sick. The judge turned to Rachel's lawyer. Counselor, did your client disclose any information about potential mineral value when filing this petition? Your Honor, my client was unaware. Your client's husband met with a mineral rights investor 6 weeks before filing. I find that extremely suspicious. She turned to Rachel. Mrs. Patterson, approach the bench. Rachel stood shakily, walking to stand before the judge. Mrs. Patterson, did you know about the potential mineral value of your mother's property when you filed for guardianship? Rachel's mouth opened and closed. Craig mentioned that Brandon thought the land might be worth more than we thought, but I didn't know. Did you disclose this to your attorney or to the court? I didn't think it was relevant. You didn't think it was relevant that you were seeking control over property worth millions of dollars. The judge's voice was ice. Mrs. Patterson, this court takes a very low view of using guardianship proceedings to gain control of assets. Very low indeed. She looked at her notes, then at me sitting in my worn blue dress, then back at Rachel in her designer outfit. Petition denied, she said firmly. Dorothy Mae Johnson has been shown to be fully competent and capable of managing her own affairs. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation into possible fraud and elder abuse. Rachel gasped. Elder abuse? I was trying to help her. You were trying to steal from her, Judge Simmons said flatly. Get out of my courtroom. I walked out of that courthouse feeling like I could fly. Beth drove me home, talking the whole way about next steps. The DA will investigate. Even if they don't prosecute, this will follow your daughter. And Mrs. Johnson, you need to think about what you want to do with this property. Those mineral rights are real. You could sell them, lease them, develop them yourself. I need time to think, I said. Take all the time you need, but get your will updated. Make sure everything is crystal clear about who inherits what, and maybe consider whether you want any relationship with your daughter after this. That night, alone in my house, I sat on the porch Samuel built and thought about everything that had happened. My daughter had tried to steal from me, had tried to declare me incompetent, take my home, sell my land, and pocket millions, all while pretending she was concerned about my welfare. It hurt worse than Samuel's death. At least his death was natural, inevitable. This was betrayal, calculated, deliberate. My phone rang. Rachel. I considered not answering, but I needed to hear what she'd say. Mom. Don't, I said. Don't you dare. Mom, please, let me explain. Craig said it was just business, that you'd never know, that we could use the money from the land to put you somewhere really nice. You tried to steal my home, the home your daddy built with his own hands. It's falling apart. Mom, you can't live there forever. That wasn't your decision to make. And you know what the worst part is? If you'd just talked to me, if you'd just been honest, maybe we could have worked something out. But you lied. You went behind my back. You tried to have me declared incompetent so you could control my life and take what was mine. I'm your daughter. Then act like it. My voice rose for the first time. Daughters don't betray their mothers for money. Daughters don't try to steal their inheritance while their mother is still alive. You're not the girl I raised. I don't know who you are anymore. She was crying now. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Craig said it would be fine. He said you'd never have to know. It's always Craig, isn't it? Never your responsibility. Never your choice. You're 51 years old, Rachel. When are you going to take responsibility for your own decisions? I hung up. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. The DA did investigate. They didn't file criminal charges. Apparently, it's hard to prove criminal intent in guardianship cases, but the investigation itself was damaging. The Charleston newspaper ran a story. Local developer investigated for elder abuse plot. Craig's reputation took a hit. He lost several clients who didn't want to be associated with someone accused of trying to steal from his elderly mother-in-law. Rachel's friends found out. In a town like Charleston, gossip spreads fast. She was quietly asked to step down from her position on the charity board she'd been so proud of. The country club where she and Craig were members made it clear they weren't welcome anymore. Karma, some people might call it. I called it consequences. Meanwhile, I had decisions to make about the land. Beth connected me with a mineral rights attorney, a specialist who dealt with this kind of thing. He explained my options. I could sell the rights outright for a lump sum. I could lease them to a mining company for royalties. I could hold on to them and hope the value increased. What would you do? I asked him. Honestly, at your age, I'd sell half and lease half, get some immediate money to live on, but keep long-term income coming in. So that's what I did. I sold half my mineral rights to a rare earth mining company for $1.4 million. They'd begin extraction in 2 years, after all the environmental surveys and permits were done. I leased the other half to the same company for a 20-year term, with royalties that would pay me approximately $80,000 a year. Suddenly, I had money. Real money. More money than I'd ever imagined having. My first instinct was to fix up the house, but as I walked through it, really looked at it, I realized Rachel had been right about one thing. It was falling apart. The foundation was cracked. The roof leaked.
The plumbing was 70 years old. It would cost a fortune to repair, and even then it would still be an old house requiring constant maintenance. Samuel had built it for us, for our young family. But our family was gone now. Samuel was gone. Rachel showed her true colors. It was just me, an old woman in a house too big and too broken. So I made a different decision. I sold the land, not the mineral rights, which I kept, but the surface rights, sold the 40 acres to a conservation trust that promised to keep it wild, never develop it, preserve it as natural habitat. They paid me $200,000 for land that was maybe $50,000 before anyone knew about the minerals. With that money and the mineral rights sale, I had $1.6 million. I bought a new house. Nothing fancy, a small 2-bedroom ranch in a senior community outside Charleston, ironically close to where Rachel lived. It had a modern kitchen, a bathroom with grab bars and a walk-in shower, central heating and air, neighbors close by, and a community center where I could actually socialize with other seniors. It wasn't the home Samuel built, but it was safe, warm, accessible. It was practical. And I still honored Samuel's memory. I took wood from our old house before it was torn down, the beam above the front door that he'd carved our initials into, the porch railing with Rachel's childhood initials. I had them incorporated into my new house. Samuel's hands were still with me, just in a new place.
6 months after I moved into my new place, Rachel called again. I'd blocked her number after the courthouse, but she called from Craig's phone. I answered because I didn't recognize it. "Mom, please don't hang up." I considered hanging up, but curiosity won. "What do you want, Rachel?" "I wanted to tell you, Craig and I are getting divorced." I sat down. "What?" After everything that happened, I finally saw him clearly. He's the one who pushed for the guardianship. He's the one who met with that investor. He's the one who said we needed to act before you got too old or gave the land to charity or something. I went along with it because I always went along with what Craig wanted, but it was his idea. You're a grown woman, Rachel. You made your own choice. I know I did. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm trying to explain. I've spent my whole adult life trying to live up to Craig's expectations, trying to fit into his world of money and status and keeping up with everyone else. And I lost myself. I lost you. I didn't say anything. I'm in therapy now trying to figure out why I betrayed my own mother for money I didn't even need. Craig's business is successful. We were fine financially, but he wanted more, and I wanted to please him, and I somehow convinced myself that getting you into a facility was actually for your own good. Was it for your own good when you tried to steal millions of dollars? No, her voice broke. No, that was greed. That was me being selfish and awful and a terrible daughter. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to have a relationship again. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did. I understand how badly I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I looked around my new living room. Safe, warm, comfortable. Built with money from the land Samuel left me, from his wisdom in buying property with mineral rights, from his notes telling me to have it surveyed if I ever needed money. Samuel had taken care of me, even from beyond the grave. My husband had protected me better than my own daughter. Rachel, I appreciate the apology, but I don't think I can forgive you yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. I understand. And I want you to know I've updated my will. When I die, half of my estate goes to charity, organizations that help seniors who are being abused or taken advantage of by their families. The other half goes to your kids in trust until they're 30. Nothing goes to you. Silence. Then, quietly, that's fair.
I'm not doing it to punish you. I'm doing it because I don't trust you anymore. And trust is something that, once broken, is very hard to repair. I know. Mom, can I ask you something? What? Are you happy in your new place? I thought about it. Yeah, I am. I have friends here. We play cards on Tuesday nights. There's a garden where I grow tomatoes. The community center has a wood shop where I've been learning to make things. Reminds me of watching your daddy work. It's different from the old house, but it's good. I'm glad. She sounded like she meant it. That's all I wanted, really, for you to be happy and safe. I just went about it in the worst possible way. You did. If you ever decide you want to talk or have lunch or anything, I'll be here. No pressure, no expectations. Just, I'll be here. Okay. We hung up. I sat there for a long time, thinking about forgiveness, about family, about second chances. I wasn't sure if I'd ever fully forgive Rachel, but maybe, eventually, we could find some kind of relationship again. Not mother and daughter like we'd been, but something, someday. Living in the senior community was nothing like I had expected. For 50 years, I'd been isolated, just me and my land, occasional visits from Mrs. Chen, rare trips to town for supplies. I'd told myself I liked being alone, that I didn't need people. Turns out, I'd been lonely for decades and didn't even know it. The community had 200 residents, all over 65. Some were wealthy retirees from cities. Others were regular folks like me who'd scraped together enough to buy a modest place in their final years. But everyone was friendly. Everyone was dealing with getting old, and everyone was looking for connection. I met Betty on my second day there. She was 82, a retired school teacher from Pittsburgh, with bright white hair and a wicked sense of humor. She knocked on my door with a plate of cookies and an invitation to the Tuesday card game. Fair warning, she said, we play for quarters and Ruth Henderson cheats shamelessly, but it's a good time. I went. Ruth did cheat, but she was 86 and half blind, so we all pretended not to notice. I laughed more that evening than I had in years. I joined the garden club, made friends with Helen and George, a married couple who'd been together 63 years and still held hands when they walked. Started attending the Saturday morning coffee social where everyone complained about their various ailments and then felt better because everyone else had the same problems. For the first time in my adult life, I had a community. And I had money. Not just the $80,000 a year in mineral royalties, but the $1.6 million from selling the land and mineral rights. Even after buying my house, I had over $1 million invested, generating income. I started thinking about how to use it. One Tuesday at cards, Betty mentioned that her grandson was struggling to pay for college. Smart kid, got into a good engineering program, but the loans are crushing him. I wish I could help more, but I'm on a fixed income. How much does he need? I asked. Oh, I don't know, probably $30,000 a year, but that's impossible. I wrote her a check for $30,000 the next day. Dorothy, I can't accept this. Yes, you can. Consider it an investment in the future. Your grandson finishes school, gets a good job. Maybe he helps another kid someday. It's not charity, it's community. Word spread. The crazy old lady in Unit 47B who'd give money to people who needed it. George needed new hearing aids but couldn't afford the good ones. I bought them. Helen's daughter needed help with medical bills after a car accident. I paid them. Helen wanted to visit her sister in California one last time before her health declined further. I bought her plane ticket. I wasn't being reckless. I was still investing, still planning for my own future, but I had more than I needed, and they needed help. It felt good to be useful, to matter. But I wanted to do something bigger. I scheduled a meeting with the community center director, a capable woman named Patricia, who managed the senior community. Patricia, I want to talk about expanding the scholarship program for seniors who can't afford to live here but need a safe place. We'd love that, but our waiting list is already long and we don't have subsidized units. What if I funded some? What if I bought 10 units and let them be used as subsidized housing for low-income seniors? Her eyes widened. That would cost over $1 million. I have it, and I want to use it for something that matters. Over the next year, I bought 12 units in the community. We set up a foundation, the Samuel Johnson Senior Housing Fund, named after my husband, to manage them. Seniors living on nothing but Social Security, seniors escaping abusive family situations, seniors who'd never had much but deserved dignity in their final years could apply for housing through the foundation. We charged them 30% of their Social Security income, whatever that was. Some paid $400 a month, some paid $600. It didn't matter. Everyone deserved a safe home. The first resident we accepted was Frances, 74 years old, had been living with her son who verbally abused her and took her Social Security checks. She arrived with 2 suitcases and eyes that had seen too much pain. She said, "I don't understand. Why would someone do this for me?" "Because you deserve it," I told her. "Because someone did it for me once, and I'm paying it forward." Frances cried. Then she hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. That's when I understood what Samuel's gift had really been. Not just money, not just security, but the ability to change lives, to matter, to make sure that other seniors, other elders, other people like me who'd been dismissed and undervalued had dignity and safety.
18 months after the courthouse, Rachel showed up at my door. I was in my garden, pulling weeds from around my tomato plants, when I looked up and saw her standing at the edge of my patio. She looked different, thinner, older, tired. The divorce had been hard on her, I'd heard through the grapevine. Craig had fought her on everything, trying to protect his assets. She'd ended up with less than she deserved, but more than nothing. "Mom," she said, "I know I shouldn't be here." "Then why are you?" "Because I need you to know something." She came closer but didn't sit. "I've been going to therapy 3 times a week. I've been working on myself, trying to understand why I did what I did, and I figured something out." I waited. "I was jealous of you," she said. "My whole life I was jealous. You had something I never did. You and Daddy had real love. You lived simply, but you were happy. You had purpose. You built a life that mattered, not because it looked impressive to other people, but because it was real." "Rachel, let me finish, please." She took a shaky breath. "I married Craig because he was successful, because he gave me the life I thought I was supposed to want. Big house, nice car, country club membership. But I was never happy. And watching you refuse to leave your shack, refuse to come live in my perfect world, it made me furious. Because deep down, I knew your shack was more of a home than my mansion ever was. So you tried to take it from me? So I tried to force you to be wrong. If I could prove that your way of living was dangerous, that your happiness was just delusion, then I could feel better about my own empty life. It was cruel and selfish, and I'm ashamed of who I was." I set down my gardening trowel and looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She wasn't the confident woman in the designer clothes anymore. She was just Rachel, my little girl, lost and trying to find her way back. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I don't want your money, Mom. I don't want your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see what I did. I see the person I became, and I hate her. I'm trying to be better." "Are you?" "I'm working at a nonprofit now, housing assistance for low-income families. Pays almost nothing compared to what I'm used to, but it feels real, like I'm actually helping people instead of just decorating my life to look good." I stood up, brushed the dirt from my knees. "You know what something? Your daddy would be proud of that. Not the fancy house or the country club, but working to help people, that he'd be proud of." Her eyes filled with tears. "I miss him so much.
I wish I could talk to him about all this. He'd tell you what he always told you when you made mistakes as a kid. Rachel girl, messing up doesn't make you bad. Staying messed up does. Fix it and do better. She laughed through her tears. I'd forgotten he used to say that. He was a wise man, your daddy. Built our whole house with his own hands. Saved those mineral rights without even knowing if they'd ever be worth anything. He took care of us after he was gone. I'm sorry I called it a shack. It was never a shack. It was a home. It was love made solid. We stood there in my garden, the West Virginia sun warm on our shoulders, and for the first time in 2 years, I saw my daughter instead of my betrayer. Would you like to stay for lunch? I asked. Really? I'm not saying everything's fixed. I'm not saying I fully trust you again, but maybe we can start rebuilding, slowly. I'd like that, Mom. I really like that. We went inside and I made us sandwiches. We talked about small things, her new job, my garden, the friends I'd made at the community. Nothing heavy, nothing dramatic, just 2 women, mother and daughter, trying to find their way back to each other. Before she left, Rachel said, I heard about the Housing Foundation, the units you bought for low-income seniors. Word travels fast. That's amazing, Mom. That's exactly the kind of thing Daddy would have done if he'd had the money. I learned from the best. She hugged me at the door, not the desperate hug from before, but a real one, a daughter hugging her mother. Can I come back? Maybe for dinner next week? Call me Tuesday. We'll figure it out. After she left, I sat on my couch and thought about forgiveness. It wasn't a switch you flipped. It wasn't something that happened all at once. It was a process, a journey, a slow rebuilding of trust. Maybe Rachel and I would never have the relationship we had before, but maybe we could build something new, something more honest, something real.
2 years after the courthouse battle, the mining company began extraction. They'd done all the environmental studies, gotten all the permits, set up all the safety protocols. The actual mining site was 3 miles from where my old house had stood. They'd dug down to access the rare earth deposits using modern techniques that minimized surface disruption. I drove out there one day with Beth, my lawyer who'd become a friend. The conservation trust that owned the surface land had invited me to see the operation. It was strange seeing massive equipment on land I'd once walked daily, but the mining company was keeping their promises: minimal environmental impact, restoration plans for when extraction was complete, careful monitoring of water and soil. You did good, Beth said as we watched. You protected the land Samuel loved, you kept your home as long as you needed it, and now you're letting these minerals help people. Those rare earth elements will go into electric cars, clean energy technology. Your land is literally helping save the planet. Samuel would like that. He always believed in conservation and taking care of the earth. My royalty checks started coming quarterly, $20,000, like clockwork. Combined with my Social Security and investment income, I was making more at 79 than I'd ever made working. And I kept giving it away. The Samuel Johnson Senior Housing Fund expanded. We bought more units, not just in my community, but in other senior communities across West Virginia. We were housing 43 seniors now, all of them people who'd been one step away from homelessness or abusive situations. I got letters from them. Frances wrote to tell me she'd started painting again, something she'd loved as a young woman but had given up decades ago. Now her unit was full of canvases, and she'd even sold a few at the community art show. A man named Robert wrote to thank me for giving him a place where his grandson could visit. My son wouldn't let him come to my old place, said he wasn't safe. Now my grandson comes every Saturday and we build model trains together. You gave me my family back. Those letters meant more than any amount of money.
I also started a scholarship program, the Dorothy and Samuel Johnson Education Fund. Full ride scholarships for kids from Appalachia who wanted to go to college. Not just tuition, but room and board, books, everything. We gave out 5 scholarships the first year, 10 the second year. One recipient, a girl named Emma from a town near where I'd grown up, wrote me the most beautiful letter. Mrs. Johnson, my mama cleans houses and my daddy drives a truck. They work so hard, but college was impossible for us. You didn't just give me money, you gave me a future. You told me that where I come from doesn't limit where I can go. Thank you for believing in kids like me. I framed that letter and put it on my wall. This was Samuel's legacy. This is what he'd worked for in those mines, breathing coal dust that eventually killed him. He'd bought that land thinking about our future, our security, and now it was securing futures for dozens of people who needed it.
On what would have been Samuel's 90th birthday, I did something I'd been planning for months. I commissioned a memorial. Not in a cemetery. Samuel had been cremated and his ashes scattered on our land years ago, before I sold it. But a memorial at the Conservation Trust, on the land he'd loved. It was a simple stone bench carved from local granite overlooking the creek that ran through the property. Engraved on the back, Samuel Johnson, 1937-1989. He built with his hands, provided with his wisdom, and loved with his whole heart. The Conservation Trust held a small ceremony. My friends from the community came. Rachel came with her 2 kids, my grandchildren, young adults now who I was rebuilding relationships with. Beth came. Mrs. Chen came, even though she'd officially retired from county senior services. And 43 seniors from the Housing Foundation came, people whose lives had been changed by Samuel's foresight and my decision to honor his gift by helping others. Frances gave a speech. I never met Samuel Johnson, she said, but I know him through what his wife has done. He was a man who understood that real wealth isn't what you hoard, it's what you share. He gave Dorothy security, and she's sharing that security with all of us. That's love that extends beyond a lifetime. After the ceremony, Rachel and I walked to the bench together. We sat there, looking out at the creek, listening to the water flow. I wish I'd appreciated this place when I was growing up, Rachel said. I was always so eager to leave, to get to the city, to have a better life. I didn't understand that this was better. You were young. Young people are supposed to want to explore the world. But I should have come back more. I should have spent more time with Daddy before he died. I should have appreciated you more. You're appreciating me now. That's what matters. She leaned her head on my shoulder like she used to do when she was a little girl. I'm proud of what you've built, Mom. Not the money, the community, the way you've helped people. You took something that could have made you bitter and turned it into something beautiful. Your daddy taught me that. He worked in those mines, destroying his lungs, but he never became bitter. He always said, Dot, we might not have much, but we have each other, and we have this land, and that's enough. He understood what mattered. We sat in silence for a while, and I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From a young woman in love, building a life in the woods, to a widow alone in a falling down house, to nearly losing everything to my own daughter's greed, to this, surrounded by community, making a difference, finally at peace. Mom, Rachel said quietly, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but could you consider leaving me something? Not money, but maybe Daddy's tools? The ones you saved from the old house? I looked at her, surprised. His tools? I've been thinking about him a lot, about how he built things with his hands. I want something physical, something I can hold that reminds me of him, that reminds me what real work looks like, what real love looks like. You can have them now. You don't have to wait until I'm gone. Really? Really.
They're in my storage unit. We'll get them this week. You can build something like he did. Maybe build the relationship we should have had all along." She started crying, not sad tears, but healing tears. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for doing the work to become someone your daddy would be proud of." We sat on Samuel's bench until sunset, mother and daughter, finally finding our way back to each other on the land that had started it all.
So here we are, you and me. You've been with me through this whole journey, from that terrible day when my daughter tried to steal my home to this moment where I'm sitting in my comfortable house, surrounded by friends, making a real difference in people's lives. What did you think of my story? Did it make you think about your own family, your own elders, the people in your life who might be dismissed because they're old? Drop a comment and tell me. I want to hear from you. Let me tell you what I've learned through all of this. Lessons that nearly broke me, but ultimately made me stronger. First, being old doesn't mean being worthless. Society wants to put seniors in a box, decide we're incompetent, ship us off to facilities where we're out of sight and out of mind. But age brings wisdom, experience, strength. Don't let anyone make you feel less than because you've lived a long life. Second, family isn't about blood, it's about love and respect. My daughter, my own flesh and blood, tried to steal from me. But Betty, Francis, George, Helen, these people who were strangers 2 years ago, they've become my real family. They see my value, celebrate my independence, and support my choices. That's what family should be. Third, money is a tool, not a goal. I went from living on $1,800 a month to having millions. And you know what? The money itself didn't make me happy. What made me happy was using it to help people, to honor Samuel's memory, to make sure other Elvers didn't face what I faced. Fourth, it's never too late for redemption. Rachel betrayed me in the worst possible way, but she did the work, faced herself, and became better. We'll never have the relationship we once had, but we have something new, something more honest, and that's enough. Fifth, your worth isn't determined by what you own or where you live. I lived in a shack and people looked down on me, but that shack was built with love, filled with memories, sitting on a fortune nobody knew about. Never judge someone's value by their address or possessions. You have no idea what they're sitting on, literally or figuratively. And finally, the best revenge is living well and helping others do the same. I could have used my money to destroy Rachel, to ruin Craig, to make them pay. But instead, I used it to build something positive, to help seniors who were struggling, to give kids from Appalachia a chance at education, to honor my husband's legacy. That hurt them more than any revenge could have, because they have to live knowing they almost stole from me, and I turned around and used what they wanted to steal to help dozens of people. If you're watching this right now and you have elderly parents or grandparents, please, I'm begging you, see their value. Don't view them as burdens or obstacles. Don't assume they're incompetent just because they're old. And for God's sake, don't try to steal from them or control them or ship them off somewhere against their will. They're human beings with dignity, with wisdom, with rights. Treat them that way. And if you're watching this as a senior yourself, feeling dismissed or undervalued or pressured by family members who think they know what's best for you, stand your ground. You have rights. You have value. Don't let anyone make you feel incompetent or convince you to give up control of your life unless you genuinely need that help. Get a lawyer if you need to. Fight back if you must. Your life, your home, your decisions matter. Samuel used to say, "The world will try to measure your worth in dollars and cents. Don't let them. Your worth is in how you love, how you give, how you lift up others." He lived that way, and now I'm living it too. I'm 81 years old now. The mineral royalties keep coming. The housing foundation keeps growing. The scholarships keep changing lives. And I keep waking up every morning grateful.
grateful for the years I have left, grateful for the community around me, grateful that I stood my ground when my own daughter tried to take everything from me. This isn't just my story. It's a story about every elder who's been dismissed, every senior who's been told they don't matter, every older person who's been viewed as a burden instead of a blessing. We matter. Our lives matter. Our choices matter. Our homes, whether they're mansions or shacks, matter because they're ours. Never forget that. Now, I need you to do something for me. If this story meant something to you, hit that like button. It helps other people find this story, and maybe someone out there needs to hear it today. Maybe an elder being pressured by family, or maybe an adult child who needs to see what greed looks like, or just someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to rebuild, to heal, to stand up for yourself. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future stories. We're building a community here, a place where we share stories about resilience, about standing up for yourself, about refusing to be diminished. And please, drop a comment. Tell me, where are you watching from? Do you have elderly family members? Have you ever seen someone be dismissed because of their age? What's one thing you're going to do differently after hearing my story? Let's talk. Let's build a community that values our elders and stands up against abuse. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone caring for aging parents who's feeling overwhelmed. Maybe someone an elder themselves who needs a reminder of their worth. Maybe someone facing family pressure and needs to know they have the right to stand their ground. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about an old woman from West Virginia who almost lost everything but ended up gaining so much more. This is Dorothy Mae Johnson reminding you, you are never too old to matter, you are never too old to make a difference, and you are never, ever worthless, no matter what anyone tries to tell you. Now go out there and stand tall, stand proud, and never, ever let anyone make you feel small. God bless you all. Until next time.